welcome to the next installment of Backcountry Beta. While we're waiting for people to join, if you could just say hello to us in the chat, let us know where you're calling in from. If you know the native land you're on, that would be rad to put that in there, and just say hi while we wait to let more humans in. Also, look at all the friends. Hi, everyone. For everyone in Tahoe, I see Natasha, did you make some turns today?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They were real good. We were very tired, if you can't tell by my boyfriend here.
Yeah, it was good today, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we got some footage on my Queen Bee snowboard today and my SOS skis yesterday.
Awesome.
So I'm glad you got out too, though. That's good to hear.
I did. I rode solo today. So I don't know if it's not on Instagram, did it happen? I don't know. For real, honestly though. But it was, yeah, I had a great day.
Awesome. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, for everyone who's just joining us, welcome. We're going to give people a minute to get in. So if you could just use that chat and say hello, where you're calling from, if you know the native land you're on, that would be sweet. And just say hi to us as we get more people in the room. Is it snowing anywhere else in the North America today, or only in the Sierra?
It was snowing in Targhee today.
Cool.
It is not
in
snowing,
Fairbanks, Alaska.
Catherine, you all are getting like, you're getting a little bit hosed right now, right? But you had all the snow in February when we had nothing in the Sierra. So
yeah,
no one can feel super bad for you right now.
No. Yeah, not looking for sympathy. Just a little drought going on right now, but there is plenty of base.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, I still have more people coming in. I'm going to launch this poll right now, and we have this poll just to get a sense of why all of you are here. It's you can answer with multiple answers, so feel free to do that. I'm going to launch it, and then that just helps all of our speakers know who they're talking to. And I forgot my elevator music like I had last time. Let's see if I can find it. I like that there's like good elevator music in Spotify. Okay, a lot of just wanting to be better. I like that Zoom's telling me if I can set up professional audio. No, Zoom. I just 100% want to play something off my phone right now. I just want to not do this. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're probably good to get started. Oh, here's another human. Oh, it's Char. Can't start without Charlotte. All right. So if you just popped in, if you can say hello in the chat, who you are, where you're calling from, if you know your native land, that would be great. We have this poll launched just to get an idea of who's in the room. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Gurecki. I'm the CEO of Coalition Snow, and I'm really happy that you are joining us for our, Catherine, what are we on, 4 or 5 of Backcountry Beta?
We're on 5.
5, the 5th installment of the Coalition Snow TREW Gear Backcountry Beta event. You can tell that winter is coming to an end because it's still light outside. And this is the first time in any one of these events that it's not dark. So things are definitely changing. just to give all of you a little rundown of what's going to happen tonight. We have 3 great speakers who Catherine's going to introduce in just a minute, and we have some topics put together. In between the topics, there's going to be a chance for you to ask any questions. You can ask those questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask them. Just make sure that you're muted when you're not talking, because that just makes Zoom better for everyone. And let me see if I'm supposed to say anything else. Nope. That's all I'm supposed to talk about right now. I'm going to close this poll out so that we can see the results. And Catherine, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, just looking at the results, sorry. Okay, my name is Catherine. I work at TREW Gear up here in Portland, Oregon. And yeah, like Jen said, this is our 5th event this season for Backcountry Beta. And yeah, wow, it's gone by way too fast. Well, maybe not too fast given, anyway. And yeah, it's just been kind of an overwhelming, resounding, positive feedback. I don't know, it's just been super fun. I think when Jen and I started like thinking about this series, we came up with 3 events, and now we're at 5, and we have more possibly lined up. So it's just a really cool series, and we've had so much fun with all of these women and humans coming out and, you know, showing support for one another and learning. So yeah, tonight, as you guys know, is kind of all about photography and videography out in the mountains. And we have 3 incredible speakers. First up, we have Liz Toft, who is CEO of Elevated Locals. I would say, like, look at, yeah, I think everyone, like, the speakers show up differently in the square. Anyway, find her on your screen. Next up, we have Annie Koch, damn, sorry. Annie Koch, who is a professional adventure photographer. And last but not least, we have Emily Tidwell, a professional action sports photographer. So I will hand it off. Oh, wait. One more thing. Yes, this is why we have lists. We are currently running, as you guys might know, it was International Women's Day on Monday. It is also Women's History Month. So Coalition and TREW put our heads together and came up with a really fun nomination giveaway. It's called the Badass Babe giveaway, and we are giving away a pair of skis or snowboard from Coalition, as well as a jacket and bib combo from TREW Gear. All you have to do is nominate one or multiple women or people who identify as women, who just rock your world, are super supportive, encouraging, and just inspirational to the max. And yeah, I think everyone's just gonna have a great time. I think Jen just put that link in the chat so you guys can check it out. And
you have until the end of the month, so you can actually nominate people through the end of the month, and you don't necessarily have to know this human.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody out there in the interwebs who you think is incredible, definitely make sure to nominate them. And if you have questions, you can let us know, but we would love to have a diverse set of people who are being nominated. It's an amazing package, and we want it to go to a really, really special someone. So check that out. And it's also open to anyone who identifies as non-binary, two-spirit, or any other underrepresented gender. So we need to expand Women's History Month. Also, can I just, for a moment, can I digress? It's Women's History Month. I feel like I'm working 10 times harder to celebrate myself because it's Women's History Month with like all the extra things that are going on, and I'm not getting paid anymore. And I'm just going to call bullshit on that. And it would be great to get to a point where like other people celebrated us more so that we didn't have to throw our own party, because it's the 10th and I'm tired. And that's just how I feel right now in the week of International Women's Day and the month of Women's History Month. So I digress. We're going to turn it back over. Catherine, are you kicking off the first question, or is that me? Should I go to my notes?
No, I'm just going to hand it over to the speakers and allow for them to tell us a little bit more about themselves and their work and passion. And yep, let's hand it over.
Liz, go first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Liz. People call me Grandma, and I'm super stoked that everybody's here. Shooting video and photography is like such an exciting thing. You get to capture that moment and like put your heart in it, and I'm just super stoked. So thanks for being here. And let's see, I'm interwebbing in from Lenape Land, Brooklyn. I run a media company, Elevated Locals, and we shoot for brands and we shoot for resorts and publications, and it's mainly snow content, but we do shoot a lot of art in New York. I'm from Idaho, and I live in Brooklyn, but I'm only there about half the year. And right now, well, tomorrow I'll be back in Targhee shooting for my baby sister, Powder Day Photography. We shoot a ton of action, we shoot a ton of powder, and I love B-roll and pocket snacks.
Thanks. Also, Liz, oh, sorry, Anna, I was gonna say, Liz is also a Coalition Snow ambassador. So who's been on the team for like years. So I just have to mention that. And Annie, sorry, turn it over to you.
It's fine. Hi everyone, I'm Annie. I am an adventure photographer originally from Killington, Vermont. It looks like we have somebody in here from Killington, so hey. Yeah, I lived in Colorado for a few years where I got started in photography at the ski areas there. And then just recently I graduated from photography school in Montana, and then made my way here. So I'm just getting started in Truckee Tahoe photography here. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Annie.
Oh yeah, sorry. Hi, my name is Emily. I am also based in Reno, Washoe Territory. I am originally from northern Minnesota, Anishinaabe Territory, and I have been working in the ski industry for 7 years. I'm running my own business for 3 years full time. I do a lot of things, including being a lead photographer for Kirkwood Resort. I work for a lot of resorts around Tahoe. I also do branding, lifestyle. I shoot for publication and kind of anything that comes my way. And I absolutely have a huge passion for photography that all started when I was 13. I decided that I wanted to be a ski photographer, and I'm 30, almost 31 now, and here we are. So happy to be a part of this panel.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, I think there's like maybe too much skiing that happened today. Thank you. Catherine, we're going to turn it over to you, and we're going to get our first question going, which is actually a question that is very prescient and a very important one. We're going to start serious, and then we're going to like lighten up as we go.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I have no excuse. I did not ski. I just could not figure out how to unmute myself, but here I am. So the first question, we are going to kind of dive into being a photographer or a videographer in the backcountry. So what does that look like, given, safety protocols, best practices, and just, you're kind of juggling a lot of gear, but whether it's, camera and video gear and avalanche gear, and just keeping it safe while doing your job. So I will hand this off to, I don't know who wants to start.
I can go for it.
Okay, Emily.
Yeah, I'll do it. So yeah, there are so many components that go into not only obviously having a good time in the backcountry while you're shooting, but also being safe, and then being really cognizant of your athletes that are with you and making sure that you stay safe and that they remain safe at the same time. A lot of times when you are media in the backcountry, you are put in really vulnerable locations. You might be the last person to drop into a zone, which if several people have ridden that, there could be issues, especially with persistent layers, or you're underneath a feature that could leave you in a lot of exposure, or you're just straight up in an open field where anything can kind of come at you. So you have to really be aware of where you place yourself and have really great like open conversation with your athletes or whoever you're out with, because safety is top priority. Although I love having my camera backpack with me, I have wound up kind of creating my own system within a backcountry bag where I put a little insert into my, I brought examples, into my Dakine 32 liter backpack. This has the ability to have an airbag in it. And I put a little camera insert into the back here so that I can have room for a little bit of layers, but then I always have my shovel and probe and, you know, my safe pocket so that if anything does go down, I'm not digging through a camera bag to make sure I can find my shovel or my probe, because that's number one no-no if you ever and hopefully never have to do that. So I'll chime in with that to start, and if other people want to add, but it's for sure having open conversation, having serious conversation, and then obviously knowing the terrain that you're in and what your risk levels are for you and your athletes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Just, you know, making sure you have the right knowledge and preparation before going in, having like a route plan and knowing, or just looking at the avalanche forecast and going with people who you trust and not just like random people who you've never worked with before. And yeah, safety is always first, photography second. Yeah, because you just want to make sure everybody's safe. Not even just in your group, but everybody else who's in that location in the backcountry that day. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe if you're not on a gig, you don't need that much weight. Like maybe you don't need your giant camera. Maybe you can just use your phone. Maybe you can have your GoPro or something like that.
One thing I'm curious if any of the three of you can speak to, you know, I go out just, you know, by myself, or I'll go out with friends, or we'll go out and do things with Coalition Snow. But it certainly feels like when there is somebody there with a camera, whether it's just for fun or it's something professional, sometimes it feels like there's this extra level of stress or pressure to have to perform, get the shot, make it happen. And I think that this is an important conversation, whether you're a professional or you're just out with a group of friends, to talk about how to manage humans and engage with people and really think about, you know, Annie, you said it's, you know, safety first and then the photos. But do any of you have any experiences with this or any tips around just sort of not like, there's that whole joke doing it for the gram, but no, for real, like people kind of push it just to get that footage, even if they're just a, you know, random person on Instagram. And I'm just curious if you all have tips or experiences with that.
Yeah, for sure. So like, okay. So like the other day, or yesterday, it was considerable was the forecast. And my partner and I decided to go into some terrain that was kind of more in the likely triggered kind of zone. So I decided to just put my camera away just to focus on the activity at hand. You just want to make sure that that everybody feels comfortable and safe, and you're not, again, putting the photos first before the safety. So don't be afraid to put the camera away and focus on what's in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times when you go out, let's say with like an athlete that you've never been with before, basically everyone's so excited they want to get a photo. But when they're in front of a camera, it's like the yips, like you get nervous, you feel like you're already messing up, like you get really tense and everything. And so you as media, like personally, I am a hardcore introvert, but I have learned to be very extroverted when it comes to like what I do as media. And so when you're working with athletes or models, you can tell that they're nervous, really you as media have to like get them comfortable, which is so hard. And there are so many ways to go about it, but basically I just know that I'm kind of a mess of a human and I really lean into that. And usually it relaxes other people because they realize I'm just as big of a disaster as they maybe feel they are, even though they aren't. And then creating a relationship with your athlete or model makes everything more relaxed, even with you as media, because we can get just as nervous as you, especially within snow. It's a one-shot option. It's not like you can go and ski the exact same line again. Like snow doesn't play as well as dirt. So it goes both ways.
Liz, did you have anything to add?
No, I like both of those. I mean, don't let ego, just the same rules as all backcountry. Don't let ego get you hurt. And then as far as like directing other humans, I love that. Like make people comfortable, make jokes about yourself. As soon as people get their focus off of themselves, then they can ski and ride the best way they can, and then you can capture that.
Yeah, I want to, before we transition to the next topic, I want to open this up. If anybody in the audience, like fellow friends, if you have any questions about specifically like safety or managing humans, feel free to pop it into the chat now, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question about that. The next topic we're going to move into is gear. So that's next up. So I'm going to give it just a second to see if anybody has a question or comment about this.
I have a question that has to do with like getting cold. I shoot a lot and I've been in the Northeast recently and I've been shooting a lot less because it's so cold here. Like it's so cold, your shutter freezes. And I know like getting cold and getting cold hands is like a huge urgency issue when you're in the backcountry anyway. How do you deal with that while shooting? How do you deal with having the right gloves to use your touchscreen if you have one on your camera? Kind of like, how do you manage weather when it comes to safety?
Yeah, so I think it just depends on the conditions too, but I use gloves that they can kind of convert from glove to mitten. That always helps. Is like a kind of a liner type of mitten. So that's always a good option. Out here in Tahoe, it's usually pretty warm, so I sometimes don't really use gloves. But I'm usually more concerned about keeping batteries warm and the gear warm to keep it from freezing. So just keeping like extra batteries in a pocket close to your chest or inside your gear, that always helps to just make the batteries last longer and keep everything from freezing. But yeah.
Yeah, Northeast cold is like super gangster. I maybe have a couple of extra liner gloves, so you can like switch those out once they start to get crusty. I don't know about your shutter freezing, but I know a lot of people that use like the hot pockets. But like if your camera's warm and then you pull it out, like, I understand that can, I don't really know.
Yeah, there are some products out there that are almost like jackets for cameras. And I've shot back in New England a bit. This is hobbyist moment over here, but they do help a bit. I can't say that they're gonna like solve everything, especially on like those coldest days, but I don't know, like having a little down jacket for your camera, it's cute. I don't know. And it did definitely keep it a little bit warmer and functioning a little faster than like the next day without it. So something to look into.
That's cool.
I'll chime in on that too, because first of all, my name is Emily Tidwell. I am perpetually cold. I have thyroid problems, so I have circulation issues. I actually got severe frostbite on my toes 3 seasons ago and lost a portion of my big toe on my left foot. So one, heated socks are an incredible investment, especially when you're out there and you're standing and you're just still and it's absolutely frigid cold. It can be literally, it can save your skin. I tend to be really rough on my hands, so I don't use gloves. I use mittens because I feel like personally they help circulate the heat a little bit more. A lot of times, even if it is like sub-zero, I will, when I am shooting with my camera, I will take my gloves or my mittens off. And then I just kind of risk it, and then, you know, armpit life. When it comes to cameras, I'm not sure what kind of camera you have. I rock Canon series, and I have a 5D Mark IV right now, but also the 1DX. They're really resilient when it comes to weather resistance, and so that also attributes to how they behave in the cold. I've shot with this camera in Revelstoke in -25-degree temperatures, and even though my entire camera was white, I was still able to be shooting. And I think at the end, my shutter was definitely releasing slower, but camera bodies that have better weather resistance will help even when it comes to really ridiculously cold temperatures. And then, yeah, again, like you want to make sure that you aren't shocking your camera body between the temperature outside and say you put it in your jacket, because then you're going to get fogging in the interior of your lens. You're going to have a bad time. So it's kind of like learning how to manage how you can keep your batteries in your camera warm without like doing too much shock to the system.
That's a great question. Does anyone else have any sort of safety and weather related questions about shooting? Our next topic is gear. This is a perfect segue into gear because we're talking about socks. Emily, you showed your backpack. We, talked a little bit about the camera, and I know that, from the poll, the majority of people here are not looking to necessarily like become or are professional photographers and videographers. So I think for this conversation around gear, it'd be good to talk about like the average person, like what could you have so that you could capture amazing photos? Are there certain apps? Is there like a basic camera body? Even things like, anything from like POV from GoPros. Emily, since I see your face, you're there, I see you. Do you want to kick that off in terms of like what sort of gear would be really good for people to have while shooting?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, if you're going down to just like absolute basic, your phone is an incredible opportunity for you to take incredible images, especially in this day and age. I mean, iPhones do spectacular, high quality images, so much so that sometimes if I try to send one from my phone in an email, it's like, sorry, this file is too large. You have to send it as a Google Drive. So that's a perfect camera that you need right there. I mean, you can even go in and personalize your exposures, which is fantastic. You can download Lightroom app for free on your phone, and you can edit anything on there. You can add sharpness. So at the brass tacks of the basic, that is really all you need. There are other really great beginner options when it comes to getting into camera bodies. I mean, honestly, like this Sony series, though I do not shoot on Sony, I know does wonders, especially when it comes to being compact and light. I've always shot on Canon, and the Canon Rebel series is incredible for beginning photographers. It's not too heavy either, and then you can switch out all of your lenses if you choose. But that's kind of where I'd recommend starting. And then if you are getting a camera body and you're excited about purchasing lenses and you kind of like don't know where to start, especially when it comes to action, first of all, I'd recommend investing in lenses is always more important than investing in your camera body. If you buy high quality glass, that can last you your entire career. Bodies, especially when it comes to digital, they they expire sometimes even like 6 months, every 6 months. So investing in glass is really important too, is what I would say.
Yeah, I have to agree. It doesn't really matter like what you shoot with. It's just really like you're the photographer. You can use whatever you want to shoot and make a great image using a camera, phone, or one of the beginner DSLRs, or a high-end mirrorless. It doesn't matter what you choose to shoot. It's really in the person and in the perspective and how you use that camera. So I really like the Canon series. I started out on the Rebel series. Was awesome. They have a kit that you can get with different lenses and just practice with different focal lengths. And yeah, that's a really nice lightweight one. And I still actually have that like just as a backup, which is great. And now I just got I use a 24 to 105 millimeter lens that I really like. It kind of gets a full range, full focal length, and I can just kind of pack it in my backcountry gear without worrying about a bunch of different focal lengths to choose from. Yeah, it can get really overwhelming deciding what lens do you want to take out. So I like just having one option and not having to switch out all the time, different lenses.
Yeah, there's a bunch of reggaeton going on behind me, but so hopefully you can hear me. For video, shooting with your phone, if you have anything like above an 8, like you don't really need to bring anything else out. If you can shoot 4K and then go in your settings, and if you're shooting action and go to 60 frames per second, I mean, that's like killer. That's like what they shoot for professional sports. So, like 60 is if people are moving. If your phone doesn't do 60, you can get this app called a Moment app. Like I love everything that they do. I think it's like $7, but you can change everything. And then you can also you can like have a flat profile, so later in post, like you can make everything purple if you wanted to. I like purple. So I would check out Moment app. And also they have like lenses, like they have anamorphic lenses for your phone that are $80. And in real life for a camera, that's like an insane amount of money. So it's just a really cool way that you can shoot. And they also have a fisheye. I know the iPhone has a new fisheye, but it's like better, and it's like $50. So those are like really cool, and they're like this big. And then back to shooting like 60, if you shoot like what they shoot on TV is like 32, and then 24 is like the old way that they used to shoot. So if you want to shoot like cinematically, like that's super beautiful. But like you should play around with your phone. There's so much things you can do on the phones now.
Yeah, Pia had a question up here around your favorite lens. So I know, Emily, you said invest in glass, but is there a specific lens? Like what's the first lens you should get? Maybe the second or third. Do any one of you have advice on lenses?
Oh, yeah. I mean, endless advice, but especially if you're looking to shoot action. So there are huge advantages to, I mean, one of my favorite lenses is the 70-200. And there's a lot of reasons. One is that lens has incredible compression. So when you're shooting long distance, everything gets like compacted in. So everything looks so much larger than what it looks to you at the human eye, which is just epic immediately. As a human that's like looking at an image, you're attracted to it because it is beyond what real life can provide for you. So that is a great action lens. I would say if you wanted to invest in 2 lenses to start, I personally would say 70-200 and a 24-70. That will get you basically everything, especially if you get the like 2.8 kind of aperture area of that. You can shoot portrait, landscape, action, anything with those just 2 lenses. And then if you want to get into like feeling a little bit more bougie, or if you're like shooting in the park, then you're looking at even wider angle lenses like 16 to 35, or I have a Canon 8 to 15, which is like a fisheye. That is the lens that I use a lot when I shoot in the park. Those would be my recommendations.
Yeah, lenses are so fun. I have there's so many on my dream list. But yeah, it really depends on what kind of story you're trying to tell in your image. Like if you want to go for a nice wide angle image or a really cool focused telephoto shot. Are you shooting portraits? Are you shooting landscapes? Yeah. So I really like what Emily said about having like the option, the 24 to 70 or the 70 to 200, to have the option to do either and just play and find out what your style is and what you enjoy shooting. But definitely having a fast lens, so like an f4 aperture would be perfect place to start. But even like a f2.8 or faster is going to be really awesome for action.
I mainly just shoot with a 70 to 200. Like that's really all I do. So there's that.
Awesome. Catherine, we want to launch into this next question about making the things look good.
Yes, I swear one of these days I'll figure out Zoom muting. It's just dating me real hard. All right, so this, no matter what camera or phone or apparatus you have, I feel like this is like one of the age-old questions. How do you shoot a good photo, and how do you frame it? And, you know, whether you're in the backcountry or even just at home, anywhere, it doesn't really matter. I feel like a lot of these principles continue to apply, but how do you frame a good photo?
It's the age-old question.
It is.
I mean, so if I can, I put together a couple of slides of images that I've shot in the last month that if I can figure out how to share my screen, I can show you guys. 1 second. I'll go through them pretty quickly and then I'll kind of talk about it. But basically what I'm going to say is the most important is the rule of thirds. Let's see if I'm doing this. Oh God. Let's see if I can.
So you should be good to go.
Okay.
Share screen button.
Yeah, let's see. Hold on. Anyways, so while I am having technical difficulties, if somebody else wants to start, they are more than welcome.
Well, before you show composition, I can talk about communication. Because a lot of times when you're working with people, like that's the hard, even if you know them forever, just be super patient and really say what you mean. Like if you, instead of being like, okay, go over there and do a turn like this, be like, see the branch on this tree, or try like throwing a snowball, and like talk about what you envision a couple of times. So then everybody's not panicky and mad at each other. So I think that that's super important. And not during COVID, I work for Good Morning America. And when we go shoot on location and there's only one camera, we always tell all the stars like what their frame is. And I think that that's really cool. Like I always spray my sister because I don't know what lens she has on and I'm too close to her. So if you as the camera person or as the ski model, like you say, what's my frame? And you explain like where you can see somebody and then when you can't anymore, I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, so the question is how do you make a three-dimensional world, how do you put a three-dimensional world on a two-dimensional surface? And the way to do that is just with perspective, your lens choice, your camera angle. You're creating this illusion that you're telling a story about. So there are a lot of different ways you can do that, but perspective and depth would be probably the number one. And then a mentor of mine said that light is your subject. That's always what you want to think about when you're shooting, is light, how the light is hitting your subject, the direction, the texture of it, what's going on with the light. And you could also use color to tell the story, your depth of field, you can use lines, shapes. Yeah, there's a lot of different variables to create an awesome frame. It just depends on how you want to use it.
Okay, I think I figured out my technical difficulties. So I can hopefully go into this and show you guys some examples of some images that I've shot again recently. And yeah, I just want to chime in about rule of thirds, which is just to be, I don't know, as if nobody knows what it is that it's, if you're looking at, a sheet of paper, you're putting 3 lines down vertically and then horizontally. And then basically you want to place your subject, either you can put dead center, but there's more compelling stories if you're putting it in like a lower right third or an upper right third, or, and especially when it comes to action and especially skiing, when you're telling the story of that image, you want to tell the story of motion. Is that person coming directly towards you? If they're cutting across your image, do they organically have an exit? Like when you're looking at something and it feels kind of off to you, like as anyone in general, and I pay attention to this all the time in other people's imagery, but it's usually because for some reason the energy is cut off in the frame. And the most important thing is like making sure that energy feels like it is flowing regardless of how you are shooting. So let's see if I can do this. Okay. So these are some images that I've shot in the last few weeks here. So we've got my favorite little, who I call Muffin, Tyler Curl, kind of coming through the shot here, coming through here as well on this 3-tiered little pillow drop that he did. He's kind of more center here, but he's also leaning towards right frame, kind of center frame. We have these people moving through with like organic energy at the bottom here. This is an example of kind of like a lifestyle version of that, where clearly like we are looking at someone in our right third, and then you've got adorable puppies, which is always a win. Again, just kind of looking at placement here. This was a shoot for a bottle company. So we're looking at the High Bear bottle right there, which again, you can see it from the left, and then you lead up to the model's framing in the upper right. Kind of same situation here. You're telling a story. People are transitioning in the backcountry. You're enjoying your water. This is just a portrait. This is a kind of cool example of leading lines using thirds in park. So you can get the main feature, and then you see like I used the foreground of another jump to kind of create some like really interesting lines there, and it just makes a more compelling image. These are some photos that I just shot this weekend with Courtney, who's a professional XC mountain biker, and for this shoot we had to really show off her bike as well as her. And so we're looking at really cool light streaming over her shoulder. And even though she is dead center in the frame, it kind of works really well. She's got great emotion. This is also using light to your advantage and kind of getting a similar style, but totally different with lens flares. And she's dead center in the frame again, but there's a lot of action that still feels like it's happening. And these are from today. Tahoe got snow. So this is an example, especially when it comes to skiing, of like making sure that as this athlete, which is Kat, is moving through the frame, it doesn't look like she's stagnant. Like clearly she's coming from the left and she's going to move epically through the bottom right of the frame. This is an example of kind of basically dead on coming at you framework, lower bottom third. This is another kind of interesting composure where he is coming from the right and actually leaving from the right. This is also great for like negative space when it comes to talking with clients. And then this was just epic, and I just wanted to show it off because it was really cool. And then that's one last one from Kate that I thought was really cool, where you're again getting a really example of like leading lines. So she's coming from the left, you can kind of see the trail behind her, and you can see where the trail is exiting the bottom of the frame. It's not hitting the direct corner of the bottom right of the frame. That for some reason cuts off energy really, really poorly. So if you have the opportunity to kind of make it not go into that corner like the perfect DVD sign that you've always wanted in your life, then you're gonna have a better image in general. And that's my presentation on that.
We do have a question from Charlotte Harris, hoping to, and I will double this, a little bit more information on sun flares and kind of messing around with light, and how the hell do you do that?
I don't know.
Awesome.
I think there are so many ways to do that. First of all, again, and confession, my name is Emily. I'm really rough on my gear. So some of my lenses have scratches, and scratches cause great lens flares. My 24-70 always has lens flare, and it's because I unfortunately have scratches all over it because I'm just rough. But yeah, I think honestly, it's a lot of like trial and error, and I'm sure other people can attest to this as well, but it's like a basis to basis, kind of experience, and whether or not you want them silhouetted or if you want exposure on their face as well. And then that comes into a lot of things about then thinking about your aperture, shutter, ISO, and combinations of that to see whether or not you want grit and grain and not.
So do you know what the, like, could you pull up the stats on that photo in particular, and like, for context, like tell me what the ISO and the F and the shutter speed were? Because that's always the hardest thing for me, is like, it's almost like an algebra problem. Like, how do I figure out the math of that? Because I totally stumble upon it on accident too, but when I get that like reference point, like, oh, these were all the numbers that I used, then it's like easier for me to kind of stumble upon that on accident sooner.
Totally. If somebody else, I'm looking in my Lightroom right now to get those stats. If anybody else wants to kind of chime in about light flares, etc., while I'm doing this.
Yeah, I also find it just depends on the glass too. Like what Emily said about investing in the glass you have, like the better lens you have, the more expensive glass that you have, the better that those effects are going to be, just because of the shape of the glass and how it's made, and the materials that were put into it. So just to throw out an example, I really like the Sigma Art lens line. They have a really great shape to their glass, and they have rounded aperture blades in them, which make those really, really nice circle shaped lens flares. So that's a great one to look into if you're looking to invest in a good lens that has those fun effects.
And then as to answer your question, so stats for this image in particular, I was at a focal length, so I was using my 70-200. I'm at focal length 100 millimeters. I was shooting at ISO 200 because obviously it was super bright. I didn't want it to be grainy. I was shooting at 1/640 and an aperture of 5.3. And shooting directly basically into that sunset light. And then also, again, it can depend on what time of the day that you are shooting, etc. Like this is also coastal light. Coastal light is going to filter a lot differently. So this was just like the most creme de la creme moment. And so the lens flare was my part, but all of that other like bokeh light in the back, just like smooth filter through, was really the coast doing me a favor.
And my last question on that is, how much post editing did you do to lighten the shadows so that you could see more of her silhouette, or was that all just straight out of the camera?
So this one in particular, I did not do much to edit it. I changed the white balance slightly, but I didn't do anything to the shadows or the blacks on this one. I will do that a lot. There are a couple ways that you can allow to see more features in that. I have some people that only use the curve in Lightroom. I use both shadow, then bringing in more darker blacks, and then using the curve to kind of up those shadows so that it doesn't completely, you know, kind of ruin the image. This one was just, I was so lucky that that light allowed me to provide seeing both her and the image behind her.
Can I jump in with a really remedial question? When you're doing these light flares, like, can you see it as you're taking the photo, or is it just like really bright and then when you upload it, you're like, oh, sweet, that worked out?
Yes. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in on that. I would say that yeah, sometimes you'll generally see it through your frame when you're like shooting, but also in review, you can be like, whoa, that turned out way cooler than I thought it even looked.
Yeah, sometimes you can see it. Sometimes it's just a happy accident how it works out. Yeah.
Bob Rossett, happy accident.
Yep. And we do have a question from Pia about suggestions for free photo editing software, if you guys have any experience in that.
I know that like I had mentioned before, Lightroom does have an app that you can download on your phone now, and you can use it for free. You can purchase the Lightroom app as well. It's like $10 a month if you're interested in that, but love that. I would have to say every time, I'm giving away a secret. Every time I upload an image to Instagram, I also go into the Instagram editing program and I edit it in there, because what you look at on your computer and what you see on your phone is different because of color calibration. And also like your images just get a little bit more muddy when they get uploaded into Instagram. So I boost up my sharpness. I usually boost up my brightness and my contrast. And that's a great tool that you can use.
Yeah, I'm the same way. When you export an image from your computer or wherever you're editing, that, you know, the image can get compressed and kind of warped, like the colors will kind of get weird. So I also when I take it into Instagram, I'll tweak it a little bit. But I've used the Lightroom app. I've also checked out this app called Snapseed. It's pretty good. Just playing with different effects and whatnot. And yeah, and Instagram effects are fun as well.
For video, there's an app called RTRO, and it gives you really wild sort of filters, anything from like 70s to I don't know. It's really cool. I think that's free. Like the basic version is free, and then Darkroom for video, and I think you can edit photos on it also, is their basic is free too.
We had another question too from Pia above that I think it's certainly something I always think about how to take good photos on a cloudy and gray day. And Charlotte, shout out to Charlotte, who's we just brought on at Coalition as I'm going to get your title wrong, Charlotte, doing all the graphic designs of all the things, excellent, amazing queen of senior graphic designer person.
Can we add queen into my title?
Yes.
I would like to add that.
We can do that. So Charlotte talked about, you know, that color is your friend. But Liz, do you have any tips on how to take good photos or good video when it's cloudy and gray and you've got snow, which means you have like maybe extra flat light and you have like no depth of perception, like no depth there? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, structure is your friend all the way. Yeah, we shoot in a fog mainly every day. And if you can find a few trees or whatever, like we're shooting pretty close and getting like those powder sprays. Mainly that's all people want to see, which I understand. So yeah, anything like structure, and try to like feel it out. Sometimes a little more light comes through. And then like if it's like filters are your friend there, like weird, strange things. I like really weird stuff, so I'm gonna stop talking about being weird.
I don't want to totally steal the show, but like where I'm coming from with color is like, so one time I went on a hike and it was super drizzly in the Northwest, and I personally like hate the sun. I detest it. I never want full blasting sunlight in any of my photos. I'm very moody and dark, and I actually shoot underexposed because I can always add light in. But I like passed a guy who saw my camera and he was like, "Oh, not too good of a day for photos, is it?" And I was like, "Actually, this is my ideal photo day, because when it's cloudy out, like and rain helps too. Like I almost feel like the color that I'm photographing in the woods and just anywhere is like amplified times a million. So that's why I say like focus on color. And then I think I just added if you're shooting black and white, like contrast, like where you get anything like super like black and white can be super moody and fun too.
So we are getting close to our hour, but we did have one more question from Terry that I think is probably a great one to kind of maybe wrap it up. What do you guys find you usually correct when you go off camera to the final version? Is there anything like you specifically like go to first and typically do on almost every photo or video?
I would say that when I shoot in snow, it's always messing with my whites, my highlights, and a little bit of my exposure. So like the weird thing about shooting in snow is that like your camera perceives the image as like totally white and completely overexposed immediately. And so it wants you to readjust. And it's always going to tell you that your image is either way overexposed or way, I can't remember, say under or over. So when I go in afterwards, I'm always messing, with my whites. I always make sure that I add some sharpening, but not too much. I do a filter on that. And then beyond that, I mean, when it comes to action and snow, that's what I do. There are a lot of different actions that I do for different things with like food and lifestyle and branding stuff. But since I guess we're here for action, that's what I would say, especially messing with exposure and white balance and white.
Yeah, I also just go right to exposure first. Like shooting in snow, I tend to like underexpose a lot just because I don't want to blow out the white from the snow. I don't want to lose that detail. So I always go right to exposure first, bring that up a little bit, highlights and shadows. And then I'll adjust like the contrast and the cropping, make sure I check my edges, make sure there's nothing distracting in the photo, that I'm trying to make sure that my viewer is looking at the subject I want them to look at. Yeah, so I'll do that. And then the sharpness and detail as well.
So I'll answer for video. B-roll. The first thing, like if I shoot a huge series, like I just want to cut it up and add like the laughs from the chairlift, the pocket snacks, people like eating it. And I just want to make that a little more personal. I think that, you know, shooting a great line is shooting a great line for video, but what makes it yours is adding like who you are.
It's that personal touch. That's everything, right?
Yeah. And B-roll can be so fun. You can just shoot like pop rocks in your mouth. Like, you know, B-roll is awesome.
Well, and one of the things that we clearly aren't going to get to tonight because we're wrapping it up is, you know, ways that you could differentiate yourself if you are trying to have more of a impression on Instagram. And I think Liz, like what you just said, though, really sums it up. Like, figure out what your personality is, like what your own vibe is, and like, and just figure out how to be different than who's out there. And I think that one of the beautiful things that's happened in the last year is a general acceptance of the raw. Nothing has to be perfect anymore and polished. Like there's this opportunity to really just show up the way that you are. And it doesn't have to be high gloss perfect anymore. And I think that that's like something to just be excited about. I mean, I know I'm excited about that from a brand standpoint. You know, just takes the pressure off of the perfection there. But I want to, we are unfortunately out of time. I want to let everybody know that this recording will be in the Backcountry topic over in the Coalition Clubhouse. And you can find Liz and Annie and Catherine in the Clubhouse. So if you have more questions to ask them, please feel free to reach out. There's so much to talk about with all of this. And just another plug for the Badass Babe nomination. Think of all the amazing humans who identify in an underrepresented gender and spread the love and nominate a human or multiple. And let's get this kit to someone who is doing some amazing things in this world. So I just want to thank Annie and Liz and Emily for being here tonight and sharing all of your expertise. Looking forward to seeing all of your work out there on the interwebs and beyond. I also want to thank everybody who joined us tonight and took an hour of your evening to learn more about photography. Thanks for being here. And we will have at least one more Backcountry Beta. So we will see you in about 3 to 4 weeks. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.